Well, here we are in Lord North Street, Westminster, where Harold Wilson lived in London. And it was here in Lord North Street that he waited in his drawing room at the beginning of March 1974 for the call from Buckingham Palace asking him to form a new government. Ted Heath was proving rather reluctant to leave Number 10 at the time and thought he could stitch up a deal with the Liberals and their leader Jeremy Thorpe. But Wilson, sitting here in Lord North Street with his cronies, said to them there was no danger of that because if Heath tried any funny business with Thorpe, he, Wilson, would release the contents of a file he happened to have on Jeremy Thorpe, which included all sorts of interesting stuff about his former boyfriend and a missing social security file and all sorts of other stuff which would guarantee he could never be in the government. So, sure enough, Heath retired, the Queen rang up Wilson, he left Lord North Street, went to Buckingham Palace, spent only about 2 years as Prime Minister before resigning, and this was thought to be a great mystery, one of the many mysteries, unsolved mysteries of the 70s. Actually, it wasn't that much of a mystery because he was 60 and he knew his mental faculties were collapsing at an alarming rate, as proved, you might think, by the fact that a month after he left Number 10 for the last time, in May 76, at this place, in Lord North Street, he invited 2 BBC reporters round for an evening drink. Reporters he'd never met before, didn't know from Adam. He'd just rung them up and said, "Come round, I have something to talk to you about." And what it was he said they should investigate the forces undermining democracy in Britain. And as they sat there in the upstairs room, clutching their sherries and whiskey, he said there was a plot involving South African intelligence, the CIA, elements in MI5, you name it, they were in there. And they were all out to get him and to destroy British democracy. And these 2 reporters could be the Woodward and Bernstein. This could be the British Watergate. And he wanted to be their deep throat. He had to keep himself out of it, but he would give them leads. Or as he put it, "I see myself as the big fat spider in the corner of the room. Sometimes I speak when I'm asleep. You should listen. When we meet, I might tell you to go and kick a blind man in the Charing Cross Road. That man might tell you something, lead you somewhere." These 2 chaps looked at each other and thought, blimey, this man was Prime Minister a month ago, and now he's talking about big fat spiders and blind men in the Charing Cross Road. But the really oddest thing of all about this is not that Wilson was paranoid, but that much of his paranoia turns out to have been quite justified. There were plots against him. The CIA, the head of counterintelligence CIA, a man called James Jesus Angleton, another crackpot, was convinced that Wilson was a KGB agent, as was Peter Wright at MI5 and a few other people. Retired generals and captains of industry were organising coups, and South African intelligence was up to no good, and so in a curious sense Wilson was right. Unfortunately, he was also, poor man, losing his marbles. As so often happened in the 70s, people were going mad, but were sort of justified in their madness. It was essentially a Thomas Pynchon novel.